Hi, y'all. My name is Shane Brodie. I've been traveling around the country talking to trans, intersex, non-binary, gender non-conforming, etc. people, kind of under the big trans umbrella there. Some people don't consider themselves part of that community, though, even though they might use those words to describe themselves. Also talking to some queer people and people who are adjacent to the community, people who are allies and partners and parents, and also some youth. And talking about that today, we have somebody who's much younger, which is great. I love talking to younger people. Most of this project, I've been talking to older people, so it's really important to get, the youth perspective. And so I'm going to turn it over to you and go ahead and tell us about yourself.
Well, hi. I first of all want to say I'm glad that you're talking to mostly older people.
Yeah.
They're more fun, I think.
Okay. No, I think we're all fun if we're a fun person.
Yeah, well, I'm a fun person too.
Yes.
My name is Adam Kellogg. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm a transgender man. I'm also bisexual, but I think that is a lesser part of my life than being trans is.
All right. I see that you're also a silly goose.
I'm also a silly goose.
What does that mean?
I'm just silly and fun.
Okay, all right.
See, we're in for a treat.
All right, okay.
Today I'm not a serious goose. I'm a silly goose.
Okay. So where are we at? How would you describe this area that we're in here? I don't even know how to say the name. How do you say it?
Olathe.
Olathe. Okay.
It's okay. Everyone struggles.
I would have said something else.
What were you going to say?
Olathe?
That's a good guess.
Well, yeah.
I've heard Olathe.
Okay.
That one's my favorite.
Olathe.
Olathe. Ooh, I've never heard that one.
Olathe. I don't know.
No, keep going. This is great.
Now I'm confused how to say it again.
Olathe.
Olathe. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And it seems like just driving up here, there was a lot of farming, and so I'm thinking that this used to be like a giant farm, and it was bought, and now there's a lot of new construction on it.
Oh yeah.
I've seen a lot of places like this in Austin, outside of Austin, and also outside of Oklahoma City. And it's interesting to actually be in a place like this, and it's actively being built.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the really strange part, because Olathe itself has already been kind of built up to the suburb that it is, but everywhere around here, like Lenexa and Overland Park, they're becoming like these kind of suburb urban like mixes.
Yeah.
It's really interesting because like they're building all these big hotels and these like very gentrified apartment complexes.
Yeah.
And Kansas City has
like
this
kind of resort like almost.
Sorta, yeah.
Yeah, with golfing clubs and stuff like that.
Yeah. Kansas City already has this really bad history with gentrification and redlining, so it's interesting to see it continue. And it's pretty not good. It's not good.
Yeah, can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah,
I've heard a little bit about it.
Yeah, so in the 50s and 60s, when the civil rights movement was happening, there were a lot of different like arguments about housing, and specifically for racial minorities, specifically Black folks. So the solution that a lot of cities came up with was they were like, okay, well, we're only going to give housing to people who are white. We're going to put that in our contracts, especially if you're renting. So there's this divide. There's famously a divide on, what's the street name? I know it.
I think it's Truce.
Truce. That is it.
Yeah.
Truce Street.
I just heard it a couple of interviews ago.
See, you're schooling me. I live here.
Yeah.
Truce Street. It's a split by redlining. So they would put a lot of Black neighborhoods like next to the highway, places where they weren't super like able to build wealth. And then it kind of exploded into white people taking over Black neighborhoods and then like pricing them out, basically. So that's the history.
Rebuying the neighborhood, basically.
Yeah.
And then moving Black people out.
Yeah. So forcing them more and more into the margins. So Kansas City has not reckoned with that past very well.
And there's a significant history of African American people here.
Yeah.
And so that's terrible.
Yeah,
that's terrible.
Kansas City is such a hub for jazz, for drag and Black culture that way.
Right.
Like it's huge.
Right.
It's horrible that we don't reckon with that in this in the way. And I mean living in, so this is Johnson County, the area right outside Kansas City. It's the peak pinnacle suburb. If you say I'm from Joco, they're like, okay, you're a mom, you got a shake weight, that's your thing.
I don't even know what that's about. But it seems like you are kind of in different communities because you're also a college student, right?
Yeah.
And you go to the university in Lawrence.
Yes, and University of Kansas.
And then can you describe what Lawrence is about? Because it's very different.
Lawrence again has its own history with racism and definitely like should not be ignored. But it is it's described as like an oasis from the rest of Kansas. They go, once you leave Lawrence, you're in Kansas.
Okay.
But it's this very like liberal blue type of area. And
Yes.
it pales in stark contrast to the rest of Kansas. And
Is there a LGBT community there?
yeah, it's kind of segmented, but it is there.
When you say segmented, what do you mean?
I split it between college students and then people who actually live in Lawrence.
Okay.
So there's like a very thriving
town gown.
Townies.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So you got your townies who, you know, there's a like Jazz House and Replay Lounge there, which are big, again, like drag centers. They're also are often for 21 plus, so they're kind of hard to navigate. And then college students kind of have their own like piece going on campus. Like there's the Center for Sexuality and Gender Diversity and
Do they have a lot of like fun social events on campus?
Oh, yeah.
Or is it more like advocacy and support and
Yeah, so the university isn't allowed to do advocacy, so they don't.
Oh, they're not?
It's a very fine line that they walk.
Why is that?
Well, you know, they're state funded, so they can only do so much as far as like partisan work goes.
Okay.
And
But it's their students.
Sure is.
Okay.
I know. It's so frustrating.
Here's a lot of queerness right here.
Me? Queer? No.
Yes.
What?
Can see you coming.
They can.
Yes.
They don't like it, but they can.
That's terrible. So would you say that they're against their LGBT students or they're just not overtly supportive?
Yeah, I would not say they're against their students.
Okay.
I think KU tries its best to be very inclusive, but there's only so much they can do as a state-operated entity.
Okay.
You know, I don't take any issue with them for that.
Okay.
It's a bureaucracy. They're going to be slow.
Yeah, but I'm imagining that students maybe push that a little bit.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
and I hope they continue to.
Yeah.
It is wonderful to watch. Last year, there were big protests about rape culture on campus, and about fraternities especially. And that was a huge push we saw from the student body.
Drinking, heavy drinking, all that.
It was a major push very quickly, and I think it got the university to really reconsider how it handles sexual assault cases and kind of rework some of their Title IX stuff, which was really interesting to watch.
Title IX is really a strange issue because it also silences victims because you can't actually speak out about the assault while you're going through the Title IX process.
Yeah,
it's very strange.
Recent court like decisions and defamation lawsuits have been really scary to watch. I'm also so I just graduated college. Actually, I just finished with my bachelor's degree
at 19.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. And you were saying you weren't smart. I was like, what?
You know, I got to keep you guessing.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, but so I just graduated with my psychology degree with a minor in poli-sci, and then I did some women's and gender studies work too.
Okay. So does that mean you're going on to a master's degree in psychology?
Yes, I'm going to become a therapist. I'm really excited.
Great.
Yeah, but this is a lot of the stuff we've been talking about for the past semester. I took this class called Women in Violence where we discussed a lot of Title IX and don't get me on a tangent. I will not stop talking.
Okay, well, you can go on that tangent, please. I mean, really.
Okay, well, Title IX.
I mean, if you're involved in it, so
I am. Yeah, I'm really into it. Title IX specifically is really interesting because of the really recent Supreme Court decision, 2020 Bostock, where they determined that lesbian, gay, and transgender people are all covered under Title IX. And men were ruled to be part of it decades earlier. So now interpreting what that exactly means as far as like sports, and we also apply to Title VII.
Yeah.
So what that means as far as sports go, as far as workplace harassment, discrimination, what housing, what does that mean? Where do we go from now? And that's kind of the court battle we're seeing with the anti-trans legislation happening. If you didn't hear about it, the Missouri Attorney General tried to put through a complete ban on gender affirming care
as an emergency measure.
Yeah. So he dropped that a couple days ago because the Senate passed it themselves for under 18.
Okay.
But and again, it's a very
and that's sticking.
It's going to stick. But it's interesting because we just don't know if that's legal. We have no idea.
Right.
It's a completely new political field that we are playing. The ACLU, I'm sure, is really having a field day with this one. And by a field day, I mean a horrible time. But
Well, yeah, because I mean, it's happening all over the country.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that their resources are being stretched thin at the moment.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And
also LGBT as well as trans-specific law groups as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So hopefully we'll see an uptick in some of that legal action, but also, on the groundwork, like Kansas just passed this law, SB 180. Don't know if you've heard anything about it. It's being called a big bathroom ban. It's effectively not. I mean, you can still use whatever bathroom you want to in Kansas. It's technically illegal, but there's no way to enforce that.
Okay.
They haven't put any fine or felony alongside it.
So there's a law, but no repercussions?
None.
Okay.
So far.
So why have a law then? I mean,
that's what I'm saying.
What's the deal?
It's hateful on purpose. And
so strange.
The really big deal, though, is that you can no longer change your gender marker in Kansas.
Oh, you can't?
So that's going to change.
Oh, that's crazy.
I know. So July 1st, I'm trying to get everybody I know to go to their DMV, get it done now, because it's legal till
And
then.
sometimes, I don't know what it's like, the process is here, but in some states, it takes a really long time.
It sure does.
Yeah.
I got my gender marker changed in Illinois, which is a really friendly state,
Yeah.
and it still took like a month or two to get the paperwork back.
Sometimes you have to show up to court and plead your case of why you're changing your name and gender marker. So different states are different, and that doesn't even broach like the whole birth certificate issue as well.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a whole nother issue.
I don't think Kansas has ever let you change your birth certificate, if I recall correctly, or it was a very difficult process to do so.
That really messes people up too in terms of like their everyday lives. Like, what do you do when you go to the bank?
Yeah. Your documents mismatch all the time. It's one of the scariest things that I don't think a lot of people consider for trans folks.
Get pulled over, apply for a passport. I mean, there's everything.
It is chaotic, to say the least. I consider myself very lucky. All of my documents match. Everything is good to go. I was under 18 when I got my name changed, so I don't have to write it down as a previous alias.
Oh, great. Great.
So nice.
Yeah,
it's so nice.
That's a thing. Background checks. Like if you work in a sensitive field like nursing or caregiving or anything that requires a background check, you have to put all that information down. You know, previous name. Yeah.
My first job was at Dairy Queen. They made me do a background check for that.
Dairy Queen.
Yeah, I know.
What?
It was so ridiculous. It was
What
like
are
I was
you
applying for the
doing?
FBI. I was like, okay.
Okay.
I'm 15. What am I doing? Identity theft? Like, no.
I bet you made some nice little curly cues on top of the ice cream cones.
Oh, I sure did.
I have a feeling about that.
I did. I was really good at my job. I ran that thing like the Navy.
Goodness gracious. So are you applying to graduate schools, or have you already done that?
I'm done. I'm going to KU.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so
Great.
already in. They
Okay.
can't kick me out now.
Okay. And is that the same school in Lawrence?
Yep.
Okay, all right.
So yeah, on campus. I'm
Okay.
really excited actually. I'm
Okay.
getting my first apartment with a friend. I'm paying the rent on it for the first time.
Real adult stuff.
I know, scary.
Wow.
You wouldn't know anything about that though.
Yeah, I'm just a teenager too. No. I'm literally almost like 3 times your age, which is
Awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome. So yeah, actually, we were talking about that earlier. When did you start, I guess, transitioning and physically doing stuff and all that?
Yeah, socially. Okay, so I came out as bisexual when I was 11. Which I think it's a really funny story, but I ran down the stairs. I had this realization. I was calling my best friend. I ran down the stairs. I hung up the phone and I went to my mom. Mom, I think I'm bisexual and an atheist. And she was like, geez.
Had you been reading something or talking to people or your peers, or what happened that you came to that realization?
Yeah, it was a big explosion on the internet. There was a lot of like YouTubers I liked who were queer, and then a lot of like Instagram was a really big hub at the time.
Right.
I can't believe I have to say that like it's over. Like Instagram's not the thing anymore.
Well, yeah, I mean it just moves on every couple years. It's something else.
Now it's like
TikTok.
TikTok.
Yeah. Well, I'm still on Facebook. Actually, I'm still on LiveJournal. No.
You're still on LiveJournal?
I think
No way.
I think I still have an account. Actually, a friend of mine, he's a queer. He's a faggot. He's beautiful. He's wonderful. He's also a fairy.
Slay.
Yeah, he's wonderful, and he has a big beard and whatever. He he and I were on LiveJournal, and that's how we became friends. And he still runs some groups on there, and he's trying to get people to get back on there.
Wow.
Because, Twitter and Facebook
Yeah, the great Twitter purge.
suck so badly.
Maybe that's our last hope, LiveJournal.
Yeah.
Let's get there.
Right.
Yeah, but it was a big deal on Instagram at the time. So anyway, I was like crying to my mom. She's like, can you chill out? Like, it's fine. You're fine. Like, I love you no matter what, is what she said.
Okay. How would you describe, like, the politics of your parents? Are they fairly liberal? Are they progressive?
It's complicated because so my parents are divorced. They have been since I was like 8 years old. So my mom is fairly liberal. I don't know if she'll want me to say that.
Well,
her family is less so.
Okay.
And then my dad is very hard right conservative.
Okay.
And his family is very leftist, which is really interesting. I don't know. The military happened. That's what happened. Right. But I still love him. We don't talk anymore. Not because of me. It was actually due to politics disagreements and just a couple of other things. Like he was very supportive of my transition until I started medically transitioning. I was 13 when I got on hormone blockers. And so he was okay with that because it was reversible, and he was okay with the name change because it was reversible. And then I told him when I was 16, a couple days before my 17th birthday, is when I got my first testosterone shot. Okay. And I called him.
So you were on blockers for about 3 years?
About 3 years.
Okay.
And I stayed on them for about a year into testosterone, and then I took them off because they're like, you could probably have more testosterone if you took your blocker out.
There you go.
Yeah, so I called him right before I was planning to go on testosterone because I didn't need his signature, his consent. It was only one person, my mom.
Okay.
And I called him and I said, I'm doing this. I would really like your support.
Yeah.
But I understand if you don't want to give it to me. And he said, I can't support you on this. And that was like probably one of the last times we talked.
Okay. Wow.
So, I love my dad very much.
And that's like, what, 3 years ago? Something like that?
Yeah, 2 or 3 years ago. Yeah, I turn 20 next month.
Okay.
Side note.
Wow.
So, yeah, 3 years.
Is he still in your life at all, or just?
I text him every once in a while.
Yeah.
I check in. I got a text my freshman year of college from my stepmom, and she told me that he had COVID and he was probably not going to live. He lived. He always does that. Like, he's about to die, and then he just lives. It's so weird. He got in a motorcycle wreck my freshman year of high school. He was fine. He has a completely, like, metal arm now, and he's, like, fine. What's wrong with him? He was on a ventilator for 3 weeks.
3 weeks,
and he lived.
Goodness
They
gracious.
were like, he's probably not going to wake up from this. It's 10%. And then he woke up. And allegedly, he's fine.
Okay.
He's all there.
I've never met anybody or heard of anybody that went that far with it.
Yeah. Well, I hadn't either up until then. And it was a very scary time, but he's just such a fighter.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I think of COVID
him
as being more like the big urban centers, just because everybody was so close to each other. And, I was living in a small town, and, you're kind of out in the suburbs.
And for me, it was a couple of friends of mine who had parents or grandparents with pretty bad cases. I was working in a nursing home in 2021.
Oh, so you had quite a bit of contact with it, I bet.
Funny enough, no.
Oh, okay.
My nursing home was one of the few also, I say I worked there. I worked there for like 3 weeks. I wanted to be a nurse, and I decided very quickly I did not want to be a nurse anymore.
Why is that?
I cared more about talking with my residents than I did about physically taking care of them.
Okay.
And it's not that it grosses me out or anything. I've done grosser things in my life.
Sure.
I got a plate thrown at me. That was really fun. But like, it wasn't all that. It was just, it wasn't anything about if I didn't like caring for people physically. It was more just that I felt like I could better serve people if I was doing mental health work and emotional work.
Yeah.
So, and I also, at the same time, I was taking an intro to sociology class, and I loved that. So I switched.
Yeah.
But for the 3 weeks I did work there, I had a couple of nursing friends who were in my class when I went through school, and they all worked at nursing homes with explosions of cases, just people dying every day they went to work. It was horrible. Like, I think we all try to collectively forget how bad it was, but it was bad. Like, people died every single day.
Right.
Andrew Cuomo let people die. Like, it was just horrible. And there's also like this air of we just don't care because they're older,
or that we're also over it.
Yeah,
we're not over it. COVID's still around.
There's still thousands of cases a day. Like, it's not over.
Yeah.
Stay home if you're sick.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah, I still sometimes see people wearing masks. It's becoming less common though. I was just on some plane flights, so there were quite a few people.
Definitely.
Yeah, because it's a closed space.
Yeah, I think the plane is one of the places you should probably still wear a mask.
Yeah. So what is your focus with psychology?
So right now, I really want to work with transgender youth and transgender seniors. So 65 and older.
Okay.
I think.
Why seniors?
They are such an underrepresented population, and they have so much good history and kind things to say. And we don't work hard enough on, one, preserving that history, and two, treating those people like people. So, and LGBT people are already such an underserved group, but then when you combine it with ageism, it just explodes. I did this research project my freshman year, and it really changed my perspective on who I wanted to work with and why.
Okay. What was that about?
It was about LGBT seniors and how they're treated in nursing homes especially, and they face so much discrimination. So much.
Like what?
They're often turned away from homes entirely because
You're talking about nursing homes.
Yes, on the basis of being Christian homes or other types of religions. There are plenty who are not given their correct doses for their medication if they're transgender or even cisgender and just need their medications. Nurses forget about them.
I wonder about people who don't have family backing them up.
Yeah, and they are far more likely to not have family. Or if they do, they're more likely to not be married due to restrictions up until Obergefell.
Yeah.
There's just so many different...
Or just isolation.
Yeah, just in general. If their partner has died or if they'd never had a partner at all.
Right.
It's very... there's a lot of compounding factors on them that I think we all ignore too much.
And I know that there's a significant population of older trans people who are also stealth.
Yes.
So you might not know they were trans or be able to even contact them.
Yeah, and
that would be difficult.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, especially in a nursing home, they're relying on people for 24/7 care. So that means people are probably going to see their genitals at some point, and it can compound issues from there, being like asking a lot of intrusive questions to somebody who might not be able or ready to answer those questions. Or just like blatant discrimination from there on out. It's so entangled.
And then also there's the issue of like declining cognition, and self-advocacy within a medical environment. I always wonder about that, like if we have enough people out there who are trained in advocacy in those kinds of places.
And the thing is, almost none of them are.
Yeah.
I mean, they give you a little, some people are transgender in nursing school, but it's not past that.
Right.
I mean, at least for the certified nurse aides, who are the people who most interact with your nursing home residents. So we just don't have any sensitivity. Like CNAs, I'm not a CNA anymore. That expired a long time ago. Yeah. But CNAs aren't taught any cultural sensitivity or any like sensitivity towards queer people or even older people sometimes. Like they're told the basics, but it's hard to put in practice after you've just read it in a textbook.
Right.
And a lot of these people are stealth as well. It's not their fault. I'm just saying like they might not know what to do until they're like struck with it very quickly. And inappropriate responses can come out of that.
Right.
So it's just not talked about enough, and it's not well understood by a lot of very like well established medical.
Yeah, it seems like somebody like you too could also. I mean, I don't mean to put more work on you.
No, I love it.
But you could maybe train up some people, or offer courses and that sort of thing. I've known people in the past who. Perhaps they worked for advocacy organizations like Planned Parenthood or they were just very experienced activists, and they would go into medical schools or nursing schools and talk to the students to make sure that they know about this subject.
Yeah.
So, and they would do that they would actively seek out those opportunities. So they would actually call, and see if this was a welcome sort of message that they were open to.
Yeah, there's a big organization in Kansas City called the LGBT Affirming Guild, and it's made all of therapists who are queer affirming
great.
Specifically.
Awesome.
I just got to join the guild. I'm really excited. Woo!
Yeah, I've joined professional organizations before too, and it's kind of like a milestone.
Right? You're
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm professional.
That's right. You're there. You're there.
Yeah, but
Totally.
my therapist is part of it, and that's kind of how I came to find it. But there are plenty of organizations out there who offer that continuing education.
Yes.
And it works great, especially if you're a therapist. You need that continuing education credit.
So as a master's student, are you going to be offering care as like part of clinical hours and that sort of thing?
Yes, not immediately, but after my freshman year.
Eventually.
Do you even call it a freshman year once you're in your master's
I don't think
program?
so. I don't
My
think so.
first year.
I think when it's like clinical hours or practicum or something after that.
Yeah. It's practicum my second year. There are a couple of different places in Kansas City I'd love to work because, funny enough, Kansas City is actually pretty solid transgender care.
Okay.
We do a pretty good job. KU Med is one of the strongest, I don't just say this because I go there, but like genuinely one of the strongest gender affirming care forces in the United States.
Okay. Wow. I didn't know that.
And
Do they have a specific clinic or
Yeah, they do.
They've spread out the competence?
I think their clinic was open in 2011 and then they've expanded it since. But I go there for all of my my testosterone and my gender affirming surgery. We can talk about that in a second. But they're excellent. I love their lead nurse. Her name is Judy Gay, which is the best name to have when you run the gender affirming clinic.
That's great. That's almost like a drag name.
I know, right? I was like, it's taken.
Yeah.
But she's wonderful. And then all their surgeons and staff are just incredible people, and they try every day to learn something new. And they're always like, I'm so proud of you on your journey.
Yeah.
Your shot of testosterone. Look at you.
Sometimes that's a bit much, but
I don't know. I love it. Especially some of them have that like southern drawl. It's like, thank you.
Yeah. Speaking of that, so you said you wanted to move on to like talking about more of the physical stuff. Yeah. What part of that do you want to talk about?
I just want to talk about actually getting gender affirming surgery.
Sure.
Very young, I think, comparatively to a lot of people who get it. So I had top surgery a month after my 18th birthday.
Okay.
And then I had my tubes removed last year. Actually, it was a reaction to Dobbs v. Jackson coming down, the Roe v. Wade.
Okay.
I called the clinic that day and I was like, we got to do this. I can't risk it. I can't risk getting pregnant. But yeah.
So that issue does affect trans men who still have those working reproductive parts, and they have cisgender male partners or trans women who choose to have that kind of sex. Yeah. So here we are. Somebody who is an example of who's needed that kind of care.
Yeah, and I turned out so great. I'm so happy.
Well, you're quite handsome.
I thank you.
Yeah, well, you get very nice beard.
Thanks. I want to be like you. I want a nice mustache.
Okay. Yeah, it takes a while sometimes for the mustache to come in.
So I'm told. I've been waiting this will be my 3 years next month, and I'm waiting.
Yeah, I might actually do a little curl, but I think that might
the handlebar.
Yeah,
Are
I might
you
do
joking?
Just a little bit. I can't quite find a wax that I like though. They all taste weird, or they have some weird smell.
You're not supposed to eat it.
No, I know. I put one in that it kind of smelled like burnt honey, which is probably what it is. It's probably like burnt beeswax.
Yeah, they probably melted something down.
Speaking of that, like facial stuff or whatever, you mentioned earlier that you're a makeup artist.
That was a hard segue, but I like it.
Yeah,
I like it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, facial hair,
it's on the face.
That is male makeup. I'm sorry.
It is. Oh my! If I shave this thing, you get the jawline insane. Insane.
I change my beard all the time. So.
I like this iteration.
Yeah. Okay. Sure.
I also like the white that's coming through on the actual beard. I'm not a dig. I like it.
No.
I love it.
Actually, no, I like it too. It's a little scraggly at the moment. I haven't.
Scraggle schmaggle.
Yeah, whatever.
I'm
just a rock star.
Exactly, living that rock star life.
That's right.
That's a privilege we get as trans men. Is our beard can look as bad as we want it to. That's us.
Sure.
We got claims on that. Yeah, makeup. I do.
Yeah.
Yes. So I'm a drag performer. Actually, I'm a drag queen.
Okay. So you're a trans man
And a drag
who's
queen.
a drag queen.
Yeah, I think it was a lot of
Awesome.
steps to get there.
That is a lot of steps.
But we had fun the whole
Yeah.
time. Yeah, I saw.
Well, I know cisgendered women who are also like in the
Yeah.
drag scene. So
Absolutely.
yeah, because normal everyday woman's life is not dressed up like that.
Yeah, a woman's life is not eyebrows all the way up to her
Yes,
hairline.
exactly.
Like, no. Yeah, but
Except
I
for Dolly Parton, but yeah.
love that woman.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, I just snapped in that mic.
No, it's okay.
I love that woman.
Yes.
Yeah. So I've just gotten into the drag scene because it's pretty inaccessible to people who are under 21, at least in Kansas City.
Right, because it's bars and
It's
stuff.
a lot of bars, but I'm very lucky to have a couple of good friends in the scene already. There's an amazing performer I want to shout out really quick.
Yeah, sure.
Marie Curie. They're my drag mom.
Okay.
And they are insanely talented.
Can you explain that a bit? Because that is very a rich part of gay history, of queer history, like the houses and the moms and the drag moms.
Yeah, well, I don't know if I could give you the full rundown.
Well, of what you know.
Of what I know.
Yes.
What I know is you should watch Paris is Burning if you're new to the subject.
Yes.
But for a very quick thing, drag houses, which was like when balls were about competing and performing specifically, they would have these kind of like family systems where maybe more experienced or older people would adopt these younger kids who've been kicked out of their homes or who just didn't have anywhere else to go, and they would all work together kind of as a team and perform in these challenges and try to win trophies kind of as a symbol of status within their house.
Yeah, and it's enduring. Anywhere you go, even up in Alaska, there's this kind of system. There's also the court system, which I think is a little bit different. Do you know the court system?
I'm not familiar, no.
It is also drag-based, but I think it's more centered around charity work or something like that. I don't know too much about it, but that is another sort of drag organization, I guess you might say.
I have something to Google later.
Yeah. I think the house system is a little bit more informal, more like... the language of it is family-based.
Yes.
Which is nice because a lot of queer and trans people get kicked out or even just like you were saying, there's some enmity between a parent and a child, which is just awful. It's just awful that happened.
Also, shout out to my actual mom really quick. She's wonderful.
I know.
This is her house.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, my drag mom's great, and it's such an informal thing on an informal thing.
Yeah.
Like,
it's based in love and community.
Yeah, and how wonderful to have that.
That's the best.
So yeah, it's been great, and gotten my little taste of the Lawrence scene.
So what have you learned from your drag mom and by performing and all that?
What have I learned?
Yeah.
I learned that I don't know how to glue down my eyebrows. That's what I've learned.
Okay.
No, I've seriously.
What do you mean by that?
Oh, so
you actually glue them down?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
I forget.
I'm a Pharaoh Mountain man. So
yes, sir. I like it.
No, it's true.
I like it. No, good. Okay, so when
I used to live in a cabin with my dog, so
I love it though. What an expansive queer experience we've just covered in the past 20 seconds.
It's true.
Gluing down your eyebrows. Cabin in the woods.
Yes.
Okay, yes. So when you do drag, not everyone does this, but in order to get rid of your eyebrows, you can draw like a new eye shape.
Oh.
You just glue them down with like an Elmer's glue stick.
Okay. Is that the ones where it's like there's a bright white area? Okay, I've seen that, and I don't know how they do it, but it's like, wow, it looks like a cartoon or something.
Yes, and then especially when it gets so hot in here during the summer and you're at Pride, you're sweating it off so bad.
I can't imagine.
No.
Like I was just saying, like I have trouble just curling up my beard, you know, or my mustache. You know?
Yeah, well, I'm high maintenance. So, sorry, didn't mean to tell you drinking water.
Well, high maintenance can be worth it.
I'm worth that. Yeah, I'm still really new to the actual drag scene, but I've been doing makeup for about 6 or 7 years.
Okay.
And even when I was still identifying as cis, I was
Okay.
kind of into it, which is very
Are
funny.
you one of those people that makes little videos about it and tutorials and
Oh,
that sort of thing?
sometimes.
Okay.
I used to a
'Cause
lot.
I know the younger people love doing this, like if they like, especially around makeup and hair and all that.
Yeah, I used to a lot, and then I got schooled by some other makeup artists who were just much better than me, and I was like, oh, can't do this. I gotta work on it.
Well, there's also a tradition of bad drag as well.
Exactly.
So maybe you're the
I'm
the
adopting
bad makeup artist version of bad drag.
I'm adopting it very slowly.
I actually really appreciate bad drag because it's often comes from like this kind of angry, like fuck you kind of place.
It's a place of passion.
Yeah.
I like it so much.
Yeah.
I like
it's like trashy and good.
Yes, there are so many just like subgenres of drag too.
That's
I've
right.
been really into like the alien type of scene.
I don't know
where
that. I
where
don't
you
know.
completely like you just change everything like about like you change your like people paint themselves
So
green.
different limbs and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, people paint themselves green. I was just hearing about like
from Star Trek. The Star Trek.
just like
movies?
Star Trek. I've known some people who have bought like mechanic hands that will move for them, and like it's so cool.
Like animatronics.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
But just on them.
Oh wow, that's wild.
Drag is such an expansive, interesting world. It's not
Yeah.
just about being a woman. There's,
No,
There's
it's
so much going on.
If any woman acts like that, I mean,
I'll marry her. Send her my way.
there you go. Like I said earlier, cisgendered women also do drag because it's like this extra thing. It's not, how, women live their everyday lives. It is performance, and it seems like also drag has been kind of bad-mouthed
Yeah.
by the right and also politicians on the right as being about sex, like about sex acts or something like that. And there is definitely the burlesque kind of version of drag. You know, I mean, and that is for adult audiences, and it's in bars, and adults enjoy that. And there's body humor, and that's great. I mean, it's adult entertainment. In fact, when I went to drag shows, oftentimes there would be straight people there coming for the show.
They love them.
They love
Straight
it.
people love those shows.
They love
Go
coming.
to any Hamburger Mary's on a Saturday morning. They
Exactly.
love those shows.
Exactly. In fact, they were kind of supporting the bar. You know, spending a lot of money there, which is great. It's a great crossover culturally as well.
Yeah.
But then also, drag performers are also just part of the community in general. So there's a whole wide spectrum of performance that drag is. It can be, very clean, very, age appropriate for children, and just fun and colorful. And kids always love that.
Oh, they do.
I mean, look at the cartoons that they watch. They're very vibrant, very, very silly, and that's very much what drag can be. And then, across the spectrum it can be also a very adult entertainment. But, drag queens, they gear what they do to their audience because they want that feedback.
Yeah. I don't know if you've ever heard of JoJo Siwa.
No.
But she's like this kid who was on, I think, Nickelodeon for a long time.
Okay.
And so she's kind of part of queer culture now. She came in as a lesbian a couple years ago. But when she was doing all of her performances for Nickelodeon or Disney or whoever she works with, she had these like huge bright colors on and like a signature bow on the top of her head. I was liking what she does to drag, just because it's a performance. It's
absolutely,
that's exactly what it is. She's playing to her audience, and now she has a slightly different audience because she came out. So her audience is now like teenagers. Yeah. So she now plays to them. It's just it's like Lady Gaga, like all the same.
Madonna.
We just do
whatever.
We just do what makes sense for the moment. We're not like, I don't think any drag performer is actively trying to sexualize children or be sexual in front of children.
No. And what we see is that it's, youth pastors and, preschool and also politicians, police officers. Every day I go on Twitter, there's pictures of these predators out there. But I don't see any pictures of drag queens. It's always these Republicans, frankly.
Here we are, thank you, Matt Gaetz.
Yeah. Anyway, so what else should we talk about? How about more about even though you say you weren't that successful, what did you like about doing these makeup tutorials and that sort of thing?
Oh, I think I just liked having people to talk to about it.
Okay. So it was more of an exchange.
Yeah.
It really was more social.
Yeah, I wanted to share the art that I was doing and work on it, have kind of an excuse to work on it. I think a lot of our brains get stuck in that anxiety loop of, I can't do something unless it's productive.
Oh,
so
or I'm the best at it. Or
I have to be the best at
right.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it would be
such an American obsession.
Right? But it would be such a good experience for me to just make a silly little video and then like learn something new about the makeup I was doing, and then people appreciated what I was doing at the same time. And so I think I got run out of it for a very anti-self-care reason, which was I was comparing myself to every other person on the platform.
Right. And it's so easy to do on those platforms because, you know, you look at the number of hits or whatever and you're like, oh, mine isn't getting much hits. Yeah. But there's somebody who's going to find your videos who's going to be like, oh, this is great. This is really low key, or I connect with this person because they're a trans person, you know, a trans man who's doing this.
That was something I discovered pretty recently, like in a meaningful way for the first time. I gave testimony in front of the Kansas legislature.
Oh.
I know. That's what I said. It was.
I don't know if I'd do that. That's pretty brave.
That's honestly a good choice. Probably don't.
Yeah.
But it meant a lot to me to go and speak on. It was a proposed essential ban on gender affirming care.
Right.
For people who were under 20. Under 21 was the first bill, and then it changed to under 18. And then it changed names like 3 times, and then it just got voted out. So yay! But
so they were trying to finagle it. They were trying to see if they can push.
Yeah, they kept making these little compromises to make it more palatable because they knew that the 21 plus or the 21 and under one would have no traction. So it just changes. Plus, we have a Democratic governor with a Republican supermajority. So you just have to calculate. Okay,
what a weird situation,
isn't it? Thank you, Laura Kelly. It was very, very close. I was surprised that the national, when we were all covering like the midterms in 2022, I was surprised Kansas didn't get much traction with that.
Well, the problem is that, you know, the big media doesn't focus on places like this where there are those kind of victories.
Yeah, we're a 3 electoral college vote state, so they don't care about us, which, you know, but it's really interesting what's happening.
How many representatives do you have here, by the way?
It's a great question. I think 2 or 3.
Yeah, Alaska has 1.
Aw, look at us. No, one of ours is really great. Well, okay, maybe representatives is like a little higher, but yeah. So I know we have a lot of state senators and representatives, but Sharice Davids is one of the people who is in Kansas. She's have you heard of Sharice?
No.
She is a lesbian.
Like I said, we never hear about these things.
Right. So she's a lesbian and a Native American woman.
Oh my goodness.
And a former mixed martial arts fighter.
Oh.
She's so cool.
Wow.
And she
sounds like Wonder Woman.
She's really great. And she is Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with her. But yeah, so she's kind of the face of the Kansas Democratic Party, which is still a little moderate leaning, but pretty liberal. Anyway, so I was in the legislature giving this testimony, and it was kind of a messed up situation in the first place. We had like 10 or 15 people there to speak.
Did you go there with an organization?
Technically, yeah. So Loud Light Kansas is an activist organization aimed at like younger people. Okay, great. So like Gen Z and millennials, and their staff is mostly younger people.
Awesome.
Follow them on Instagram. Awesome. They're great.
Awesome.
And not just because I work with them.
Yeah. Well, I love hearing about these kind of radical groups that are in places that you wouldn't think that they would be.
Yeah.
I love that.
And Kansas is far more liberal and progressive than I think people realize.
Well, you have to be.
You have to.
Right?
You gotta turn
push.
that wheel hard.
Yeah. Right.
It's wonderful. And they actually just voted to unionize themselves.
Oh, awesome.
Loud Light, which was kind of cool.
Awesome.
Anyway, but so I went with them. They were helping push me through. There was also one of a lawyer from that's currently affiliated with the ACLU, DC Haggart, who is excellent and a genius. Okay. And so DC gave me some guidance on writing this testimony and helped me frame it in a trans joy perspective, because my experiences with medical intervention had all been amazing and joyful and wonderful up until that point. And just getting a good, like, solid conversational frame on it was better, because I think committee people don't have experience with trans people. They don't know.
Okay. Yeah. So you just got some guidance about how to write it.
Yeah. So I wanted that. I'd never spoken in front of the legislature before, you know, so I wrote this with that frame in mind, and I really wanted to talk about what was good about transitioning, because they had flown in these two detransitioners.
Oh, yes.
From
and it's good that you say that they flew them in, because they're always those two that they parade around.
Chloe Cole and Prisha?
Yeah, they parade them around to every single one, and they ignore all the trans people who actually live in the place.
One of the committee members actually, I think paid for their flight to come in.
Oh, that sounds like malfeasance there.
I won't accuse him of that, but
I'm going to say it.
Oh, okay.
Okay. You don't have to, but
Shane's going to say it, guys.
Yeah.
Also, because he's my representative.
Okay.
So I won't say that.
All right.
But, yeah, so they had this opposition coming up. It was a very predictable story, like they're mutilated, their lives are ruined, whatever. And I feel really bad for them, but that's not an experience that most trans people have.
Yeah, and in fact, when there's been research done on satisfaction after physical transitioning procedures, and trans care is really high, like 99.7% or something crazy like that.
Yeah.
Whereas other procedures that are more common, are way down on that list.
Yeah, I had knee surgery when I was 16. I'm more likely to regret that than I am to regret transitioning.
Exactly.
So, okay, so we were all we were ready to testify against this bill, which had changed the morning of. The name,
so people
and
couldn't read it.
Yeah,
so
the name and the content had completely changed. So they could just claim that we didn't know anything about the bill.
Right.
But it was pretty much the same.
And these are very long documents.
Oh, they're
in very difficult language, so you have to read them very carefully.
We were lucky. This one was about 3 pages long, so it wasn't horrible.
All right.
But the implications were insane. So we had 10 or 15 people to testify. They had about 6 or 7. And so guess what the committee did? They said only 6 people from each side can speak.
Oh.
Even though the representation was outweighed.
Yeah, right.
Deeply.
Right.
So we chose. I know, and you're like that sounds like something out of a dystopian novel. It's real.
Right.
It's so real.
It's like you watch these movies sometimes, and on one side, like the bride side, like nobody shows up or something, and it's really sad, and then everybody on the other side is there. Actually, in Alaska, we had something like that happen too. Somebody was trying to put through an anti-trans bill, and 80+% of the testimony was against this anti-trans bill that she was trying to push. And so instead of just accepting that, and that was the voice of the people, she kept having more hearings, more testimony times.
Kansas legislator did the exact same thing. Probably 75% of the written testimony was against the bill, and yet they chose to misrepresent.
They were like fishing. Let's try and get more of the conservatives in here. Oh, goodness gracious.
What electoral college bullshit is this?
And she was actually caught online, saying that she would do special appearances and help people if they showed up, kind of thing. Yeah. Oh, boy.
Anyway, so that happened, and a couple of my trans woman friends were there with me to speak, and one of them is my age. She's an excellent speaker, and then another one is one of my friends who just finished grad school, and she's 26, and they
still pretty young.
Yeah, so we all talked about who is going to be the best person to speak in front of this place, and we decided
'cause it's limited.
And we had to make a choice because we needed the doctors to speak, and we needed we had a couple people who were work with the American Association of Pediatrics.
Sure.
We needed these voices to come through, and so we had to pick one person out of the people with the lived experience. And so we ended up picking me because I had received gender affirming care the youngest.
Okay. Yeah.
And I was, like I said, I was 13 when I started puberty blockers, which are again reversible. So I spoke in front of the legislature, and I got my 3 minutes. I went under my 3 minutes. It was fine. They let other people speak over their 3 minutes. Guess which side they were on?
Oh yeah, they did that in Alaska too. They were trying to. This legislator was like, "Hey, you're going off topic," But with other people, it was like, "Oh, that's okay."
It's like whatever, you can do whatever you want.
They're talking about church,
Like cute, okay. Yeah, there was actually one of the most.
I hate it when they do that.
One of the most compelling testimonies we had was this woman who was part of an affirming church, and
great.
And she was a pastor there. She spoke excellent work. Anyway, but Oh, this all rounds back to that video of me giving my testimony was put out on Planned Parenthood's local chapter, like TikTok.
Great.
And then eventually on the ACLU's like nationals Instagram.
Great.
And I was just bewildered by how many people, well, one, how many people were so hateful in the comments section.
Yeah.
But two,
don't look at the comments.
Yeah, two, how many young people would comment, I'm so happy there's someone speaking. I am so glad that like anyone that looks like me that has had a similar experience to me is out there, and it gives me hope to continue living. Yeah. Not even just like continue being trans, but living.
Yeah. And people don't realize how serious this is. It's really quite serious.
And I mean, I certainly didn't save their lives or whatever, but it blew my mind just to realize how much visibility matters and how much just being open, even on social media, is important. And
to show that what an impact all of these bills and these proposals are making on people as well. Yeah. On their mental health, on, you know, the choices that they're having to make in their lives now because of state oppression. And this is state oppression.
Exactly.
This is state oppression.
Exactly. You'd think the party of small government would be known for that, but whatever.
Yeah. So what does it feel like, speaking of that, with all this stuff going on? I mean, it seems like it's kind of a mixed bag of, you know, you're having some victories and, you know, some failures, some government failures. Not the people failures, but government failures. What does that feel like socially here, you know?
Wow.
Like, what are your peers saying, you know?
I've heard a lot that the silver lining is that it really brought our community together in a way in which Kansas sometimes struggles. Okay. Because our communities are split between Lawrence and Kansas City and then all of Western Kansas. Okay. So it's a weird split, and we don't often come together like that. Yeah. But now there are like cohesive, active movements to stage protests and call citizens and talk about these kinds of things. Yeah. And
that is a silver lining, but it's always comes at quite a hard cost.
Yes. Yeah. And we're very lucky that the gender affirming care ban got voted down by Governor Kelly. It didn't pass the override of the veto, but it just, I don't know if there's a better word than it sucks. Yeah. To watch everything else go through. Yeah. Like they're now.
What actually did go through?
So HB 2238, which is a ban on trans people playing the sport of their like choosing. So like young trans girls are gonna have to play against men or not at all.
My dog is shaking. Sorry.
Oh, but you know what? He's just fine.
I know.
He's upset about it too.
Yeah. I know. Anyway.
So the trans sports ban, which has been a pretty popular one around the country to pass there's that whole email thread about how that was like the first one that people wanted to do because it was so easy to be like, well, men have an advantage against women, so we have to take these transgender people out of our sports. And then it moves on to out of schools, out of public life. Right. So that one passed, and then there SB 180, which is called the Women's Bill of Rights, which stupid. Yeah.
It's a deceptive name.
Yeah, it's the one that is a ban on gender marker changes on your driver's license, and I think on your birth certificate, as functionally as far as I know. And then also it's unenforced, but the ban on using a public restroom or a single sex space that is not aligned with your biological sex. And it also takes liberties and assigns intersex people as disabled inherently, which for medical reasons can sometimes be good, but usually horrible.
Once again, it's another non-consensual situation that's being forced upon intersex people, though.
Exactly. Yeah. So it was the idea of some doctor in the legislature, I think 5 or 10 years ago, and at first it was kind-hearted, I think, but then people ran with it and were just like, well, these people are other, so they're disabled now. Yeah.
And it's not being used to the benefit of intersex people. No. It's to reinforce the gender binary so that they can oppress people.
Yeah, like if it was used for it, they would be putting bans on like at birth genital mutilation, or like inherently like changing the sex of a child just because you want to. Yeah. But that's not how it's being used. That's actually an exception listed in a lot of these gender affirming care bills.
That's right.
It's ridiculous.
That's right. So because once again, they want to reinforce a gender binary. when it's obvious with the existence of trans people as well as intersex people that isn't the truth.
Yeah.
That isn't the truth of humanity.
Yeah.
It's never been the truth.
We're so lucky to have such amazing examples of an expansion of the gender spectrum.
Yeah.
And for some reason, a large population of us is just choosing to throw that over our shoulder. There are so many beautiful things that we have to teach everyone else, and many refuse to listen.
And as one of my previous interviewees said, this stuff used to be considered sacred, in humanity, and now we're being criminalized. It's so strange.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sounds like we need a little revolution here.
I won't say nothing.
Okay.
I would agree with you.
Okay.
And in one way or another, we need one. Oh,
something.
There's one more bill.
At least a social revolution.
Yeah. Let's kill it. There's one more bill. It has to do with the trans sports ban. It's the ban on that's not the right wording. It's legislating overnight trip accommodations for K through 12 students.
What?
So
I've never heard of that one.
I know, it's the weirdest one. And there's actually
is this
one more.
like going for a conference?
Yeah, like band camp or something.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, so when you go on a trip, there have to be accommodations that are separated by sex, and you can't have a biological male room with a biological female. Okay, and that's the rule. So you can either.
So basically, they're once again isolating trans kids.
Yes.
Okay.
And othering them, which this used to be a very case by case thing. I experienced it a couple times. I went on an overnight trip for the Thespian Convention, which is the coolest thing I've ever said. And I chose actively.
I can tell that you're involved in that.
Oh, thank you.
You're very animated.
Thanks.
So, yeah.
Thank you.
Are you going to continue with that, by the way? Maybe community.
Drag is my thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking community theater. That's old school.
They're cool. I don't know. They're too cool for me.
Okay.
But so I went overnight and I chose to room with the women because I felt more comfortable that way. But they gave me that choice. They said you can choose to room with women or you can choose to room by yourself.
Yeah.
Or we can see what we can do about rooming with men. And so now they're just forced to make this decision for every individual case, which I think is frankly ridiculous. And then the other bill that is which people don't seem to really care about either, is the segregation of prisons very explicitly.
Oh, I haven't heard that one either.
Yeah. So trans women are, I think, under law have to stay in men's prisons or a separate prison now. Wow. Which is actually the one with probably the most dire implications. And yet, it's just something we feel comfortable ignoring because it's prison. Right. As you know, I'm a prison abolitionist. That's like my main political thing. Okay.
How do you express that, by the way, besides right here?
How do I express that?
Yeah. Do you do any activism around prison issues?
This is something I'm still new to, especially with trans people and trans rights. I took this class last semester that was about.
It seems like it's going to be needed.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. This class last semester that was about perspectives on crime and deviance, and it changed my mind about trans people in prison in general. Because I used to be of the mind, well, I think maybe trans people should have a separate prison, but then I was like, oh no, there just shouldn't be prison. Okay.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
There just shouldn't be one. Okay. Yeah.
What does prison do? When people come out of prison, I don't think there's any healing that's been done.
Yeah. What do we really learn? Yeah. And we as a society,
usually people are more entrenched in criminality.
Yeah.
Or in that sort of lifestyle that got them in trouble, whatever it was.
Yeah. And do we really feel good about ourselves just putting people away for a while and then saying you're cured?
And don't we have the highest the biggest
huge prison population by a mile.
Yeah. And they're always building new ones.
Yeah. And what do we have to show for it besides higher crime rates and more violent tendencies and
more pain?
Yeah. More mental illness. Yeah. It's horrible. We don't do what we should. So there are plenty. It
just doesn't work.
There are plenty of perspectives on prison abolition that I like, and just all of them that are not what we're doing. Yeah, is wow, what a horrible idea.
Yeah, yeah. I like to sometimes listen to speeches who is the Black Panther?
Angela Davis?
Yeah, she's a prison abolitionist, and
She is the prison
Yeah,
abolitionist.
she's been carrying that banner forever, and some of her speeches are really, really interesting. So if you're just curious about that topic at all, look up some of her speeches about that.
I would also
she'll change your mind.
Yeah, I would also recommend Mariame Kaba. She is an excellent activist, and I can spell that if later.
No,
if
it's
you
okay.
Want,
I'll put a link to it.
Yeah, and she's wonderful. She's written a couple of different books. Her most recent one, I think, is I don't remember the name of it now, but it's excellent. I definitely recommend. And then Angela Davis has some pretty and Bell Hooks as well. Has some really good content.
Hooks. Yeah, when I was younger, in my early 20s, I read a whole suite of African American female writers, and she was right in there, and it was amazing.
Bell Hooks is a visionary. Beyond.
So clear.
Feminism is for Everybody. That book changed my whole life. So serious. Yeah. Now we're gonna wax on. I love women. Right. I love prison abolition.
Speaking of being in community and that sort of thing, you are a trans man.
Yes.
Who is in what I would think would be a male-dominated, cis, gay, male-dominated scene. Have you had any friction about that?
Oh, I'm really lucky. No.
Okay.
I think I just rolled good dice on everything in my life up until this point, which I'm very grateful for every day. My mom is excellent. Yeah. I got to go to school and finish school. Yeah. I am pretty stable, and then also the scene that I've been a part of has so far been pretty welcoming.
Yeah. It sounds really loving.
Yeah. And I the more I read about it, the more I realize how just incredibly lucky I am that I don't experience a lot of the same hate that other people do. And at the same time, I want to talk about that because it's very possible to live a life where people are accepting and kind. And there might be a stumble or two along the way, but really there's so much innate joy about being a trans person.
And all these things that you're talking about are, you are very lucky. You do have these things. And those things are possible. Yeah. Right? And those things sometimes aren't people's reality, but we can see that is possible. So there is change that's possible. Yeah. So if there are communities where there's maybe some friction between trans communities and gay male or lesbian communities, we can heal that. Yeah. We can heal that rift through communication, through, being really in community and supporting each other and going to social events together. And I feel like right now we're going through kind of this weird separation again. And I don't like that. I like the queer experiment where we're all partying together and protesting and let's do that again.
Yeah. Are you talking about the LGB and then split from the T? Or
yes, that shit.
Girl.
Yeah, I don't like
none of that.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Yeah.
And some people, some gay men think they're edgy if they make fun of trans people, and that's just what I've seen. And so let's think about how to round out this interview. We've covered a lot. Is there anything you want to say to other trans youth out there?
Yeah, absolutely.
You're now an adult, but you
barely
certainly you're an adult. You have certainly gone through the experience of being a trans youth. Anything you have to say to them?
I know it sounds really cliche, but the dysphoria, the pain, maybe the fear you might be feeling right now is it goes away, or at least reduces when you find your community and the people who care about you. Yeah, it might not be right when you turn 18. It might not be when you enter or finish college. It might not be when you work a job or something. But there is going to come a time where there is a change in your life, and you will find just the most amazing, supportive, kind people out there. And you deserve to think about that, to dream of a better future, and to go get it.
Yeah. And cherish it when you have it.
Absolutely.
And spread it out. Spread it out to other people. If you see people who are hurting or isolated, spread that out. Spread that love out to them.
Yeah. They need it way more than you know.
Yeah.
And I bet you need it too. And if you can give that to each other, what a beautiful exchange.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's what community is.
Also, testosterone is awesome.
I put it there. Yeah.
Yes.
I got you there. Yeah, so I think that's a good place to stop. That's a good place to end our interview there. Testosterone is awesome.
It is awesome.
Supposedly it's a feel-good drug. That's what
the turfs say.
Yeah, well, no. No, that's actually what a trans woman who's in the medical field was telling me, that it's sort of classified that way. Like it makes you feel better.
Yeah, it's a steroid.
Yeah.
I go crazy at the gym now.
Okay. I don't, but, I do other things.
Yeah.
So anyway, thank you so much for meeting with me and being super nice to my dog there.
Heck yeah.
And
thank you.
Yeah, and, doing the work that you're doing. Whether that's direct care through being, a psychologist, and also, your ideas about prison abolition and supporting people who are currently in that system. And the also very public advocacy work you've been doing, like with the legislature.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like dealing with the devil there.
They're fun. Sometimes they'll say something really funny.
Okay.
It's worth it. It's all worth it.
Funny. Okay. I'm glad you can handle it.
Yeah.
I would probably just get mad. So I'm glad that you're doing it. You're very buoyant, and that's very apparent. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah.
That's firm handshake.
I love meeting such, queer, lovely people. So.
Yeah. I love meeting especially different trans men from across the country. You all have such an interesting experience.
It's been such an interesting day, because earlier today I was talking to a trans woman who was, dyke identified and a little bit butch. So this is like the perfect queer day I'm having today.
Yeah, I completely rounded you out. You're welcome.
Yes, you're welcome.
I think I'm one of the most femme trans men to ever live.
Thank you so much. All right. Awesome.
What a great time. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, she reminded me of like the dykes I came out with 35, 40 years ago.
Wow.
Like dykes on bikes kind of.
Oh, that must have been the scene.